No one respects you. My parents shoved me across the Thanksgiving table in front of 18 relatives, my brother snorting like I was some pathetic joke. 72 hours earlier, I'd been stripped of my position in a glass conference room, but 16 teammates stood up and walked out with me. I didn't scream. I logged everything. I kept evidence. I pushed truth into the surgical light. That Thanksgiving night, the TV screen lit up, replaying illegal override commands and contemptuous messages. And when the fork clattered onto the plate, everything ended right there at the dinner table. My name is Rowan Blake, and I'm watching my family's Thanksgiving dinner transform into ground zero for the truth they never wanted to hear. The dining room at Aunt Patricia's house in Maple Ridge, Ohio, smells like butter and rosemary, like every November for the past 34 years of my life. 18 relatives packed around the extended table, the good china catching candlelight, football droning from the living room TV. Everything perfectly suburban, perfectly normal, except for the USB drive burning a hole in my jacket pocket and my colleague Jules waiting in a car outside with her finger on the AirPlay button. So Rowan's little computer job didn't work out, my mother Marjorie announces to the table, carving knife pausing mid-slice through the turkey breast. But Tyler's consulting firm just landed a major contract with her old company. Isn't that wonderful? Tyler, my golden child brother, grins from across the table. That same smirk he's worn since we were kids when he'd break my science fair projects and Mom would tell me to stop being dramatic. Yeah, North Star Systems really values experience and leadership. They know dead weight when they see it. Dead weight? 3 days ago, they called me incompetent in front of my entire team. 3 days ago, they tried to bury me in bureaucratic silence. They forgot I built half their security protocols. They forgot I document everything. That's not what happened, I say quietly, setting down my water glass. Mom's face hardens. That familiar look when I refuse to play my assigned role. Oh, here we go. Always making excuses, never taking responsibility. I was set up. Tyler accessed the system using proxy credentials. I have the logs. The table goes quiet except for the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Uncle Ray clears his throat. Cousin Beth's fork hovers halfway to her mouth. No one respects you. Mom's voice cracks like a whip. You think anyone believes your paranoid stories? You've always been difficult, always fighting everyone. Dad stands abruptly, his chair scraping hardwood. Glenn Blake, retired middle manager, keeper of peace through aggressive silence. His hand lands on my shoulder, not gentle, not fatherly, a push. Hard enough that I stumble, catch myself on the table edge, my plate jumping. Tyler snorts. Actually snorts, like this is comedy hour at the country club. My fork falls. The sound it makes hitting the China King seems to echo forever. I straighten slowly, aware of every pair of eyes on me. Aunt Patricia frozen with the gravy boat. My teenage cousins recording on their phones. The betting pool of family sympathy already calculated, and I'm coming up bankrupt. But they don't know about the 16 analysts who walked out with me. They don't know about the preservation notices already filed. They don't know that Jules is about to mirror my evidence folder to the living room's 70-inch screen where the football game is playing. 3 days ago, I say, voice steady as my hands smooth the tablecloth where I disturbed it. You all thought you'd buried me in silence. You forgot that my silence knows how to record. I pull out my phone, find Jules' contact. One tap. That's all it takes. Behind us, the living room TV flickers. The football game dies. In its place, terminal windows, timestamp logs, and Tyler's voice echoing through surround sound speakers. Just run the override, let her take the fall tomorrow. The fork stays where it fell. I don't need to pick it up. The show's about to begin. 72 hours earlier. The glass conference room at North Star Systems Lab felt like a fishbowl designed for public execution. Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. sharp. The kind of timing that says we've been planning this. We've got the paperwork ready. Just come die quietly. Karina Voss stood at the head of the table, her silver blazer reflecting the cold LED strips overhead. Executive Director of Project Operations, hired 8 months ago from a competitor with promises to streamline efficiency. Behind her, the projector hummed, displaying the Q3 performance metrics slides I'd created, analyses I'd run, conclusions I'd drawn from 2,000 hours of security audits. "Rowan, we need to discuss your leadership capacity," she said, not looking at me but at the folder in her manicured hands. "Recent events have shown a concerning lack of judgment in your system oversight." Recent events. She meant the firewall breach from last Thursday night at 11:47 p.m. when someone using proxy credentials had overridden 3 critical safety protocols. The system I'd designed had actually caught it, flagged it, contained the damage, but here we were. "The board has decided to restructure the security analysis team. Effective immediately. You're being relieved of your position. Please surrender your access badge, company laptop, and any materials related to ongoing projects." The conference room's glass walls meant everyone could see. The entire 3rd floor had a front row seat. I counted the faces I knew, developers I'd trained, analysts I'd mentored, admins I'd defended during budget cuts. They all looked away, or so I thought. "This is about the Thursday breach," I said, keeping my voice level. "The one that originated from a proxy account with suspicious—" "The investigation is closed." Karina cut me off, finally making eye contact. "Mistake. I saw something there, not triumph, but fear. Your theories about external tampering have been reviewed and dismissed. Sometimes, Rowan, people just need to accept when they've failed." I pulled my badge from my blazer pocket, set it on the table. The laptop followed, but the small notebook where I keep handwritten hashes, backup authentication codes, my personal insurance policy that stayed in my bag, along with a USB drive labeled NX Delta that nobody knew existed. Nobody except me and the automated backup protocol I'd built into a completely separate system 18 months ago, paranoid even then about corporate politics. "Is that everything?" Karina asked. "Everything you're entitled to?" The projector fan whirred in the silence. Outside the glass, I saw Jules Ortega close her laptop, then Marcus from back-end, then Priya, Constantine, Amy, David one by one. 16 members of my team stood up from their desks. No announcement, no drama. They just picked up their laptops and started walking toward the elevators. "What are they doing?" Karina's voice pitched higher. "I wouldn't know," I said, standing. "I'm no longer in a leadership position here." The walk to the door felt like a mile. My hand on the handle when Karina spoke again. "They'll be back tomorrow. They need their jobs." I turned, gave her the kind of smile you save for people who've shown you exactly who they are. "Maybe, but they'll never need you." The elevator was packed with my former team. Jules pressed the ground floor button, then whispered without looking at me. I grabbed the immutable logs before they could purge them. The real ones, not the edited versions they'll submit to the board. "Jules." "We all did. Different pieces. Marcus has the firewall configs. Priya pulled the access histories. We knew something was coming when they started limiting your repository permissions last week." She finally met my eyes. "You taught us to always keep receipts." The elevator descended through floors of people who'd returned to their desks, pretend nothing happened, cash their checks. But 16 people had just bet their careers on the truth mattering. On me mattering. 3 days later, sitting at a Thanksgiving table where I'd never mattered at all. I understand the difference. My family thinks respect is given by blood, commanded by volume, inherited through birth order. My team knew better. Respect is earned through competence, kept through integrity, and proven when you stand up for someone with nothing left to offer you. The conference room execution was supposed to be my professional death. They forgot to check if I'd stay buried. The genealogy of contempt in the Blake family runs deeper than DNA. It's written in every Christmas photo where I'm standing slightly apart, every report card that was never quite good enough, every achievement that got reframed as luck or, worse, finally applying yourself. I was 7 when I first learned the hierarchy. Tyler, 2 years older, had destroyed my solar system model the night before the science fair. Saturn's rings scattered across the garage floor, Jupiter crushed under his sneaker. When I sobbed to Mom, she sighed and said, "You should have put it somewhere safer. Tyler's just energetic. Boys will be boys." Then, the kicker. "You need to adjust your attitude, Rowan. Nobody likes a tattletale. Adjust your attitude." The family anthem for every injustice swallowed, every boundary crossed, every accomplishment diminished. Tyler got trophies for showing up to Little League. I got lectures about teamwork when I won the state mathematics competition solo. By high school, the pattern had crystallized. Tyler's C average was finding himself. My full scholarship to Case Western was running away from family. His 2 DUIs before age 25 were youthful mistakes. My insistence on pressing charges when he stole my identity for a credit card was vindictive and tearing the family apart. "Girls should be softer," Dad would say, polishing his glasses with the same mechanical motion he used to avoid conflict. "Your brother has leadership qualities. You have technical skills." Technical skills, like I was a particularly useful appliance. The real poetry started 3 years ago when Tyler announced his new consulting firm, Blake Advisory Solutions. No experience, no clients, no actual expertise, but Mom and Dad threw him a party, invited their country club friends, made donations they couldn't afford. When I mentioned I'd just been promoted to team lead at North Star, Mom changed the subject to Tyler's entrepreneurial spirit. 6 months ago, everything clicked into place. Tyler started showing up at industry events, name-dropping his sister at North Star Systems, leveraging my reputation for introductions I never authorized. Then came the family dinner where he casually mentioned partnering opportunities with my company. Dad's eyes lit up. Mom actually clapped. "You could put in a good word," she said, not asking. "That would be a conflict of interest." "There you go again," Mom interrupted. "Always making things difficult. Tyler's trying to build something. The least you could do is help your brother." The least I could do. As if 27 years of being their emotional support disappointment wasn't enough. As if watching them pour my college fund into Tyler's failed ventures, the sports bar, the crypto startup, the dropshipping scheme wasn't enough. As if being told I was lucky to have a stable job while Tyler was brave for his failures wasn't enough. But Tyler didn't want my help. He wanted my position. He wanted my access. He wanted to walk into North Star with my reputation as collateral and his incompetence as strategy. 2 weeks before the firewall breach, he started texting me about system vulnerabilities and security protocols. Claimed he was studying for a certification. I was stupid enough to answer a few basic questions, thinking maybe, finally, he was taking something seriously. Wednesday night, 11 days ago, Mom called. "Tyler's been working so hard on this North Star proposal. The least you could do is make sure the right people see it." "Mom, I can't." "You won't. You mean, you've always been selfish, Rowan, always putting your career before family." My career. The one thing I built without their money, their connections, their approval. The one space where being Glenn and Marjorie Blake's disappointing daughter didn't matter. Where my work spoke louder than Tyler's charm. "Family helps family," Dad added from the background, his standard contribution of aggressive neutrality wrapped in folksy wisdom. I hung up. Didn't answer the next 12 calls. Didn't respond to Tyler's texts about urgent opportunities or Mom's voicemails about my attitude problem. Thursday night, someone used proxy credentials linked to T. Blake proxy to attempt a system override. Friday morning, I was locked out of my own security protocols. Monday, the investigation concluded I'd been negligent. Tuesday, the execution. And now Thursday again. Thanksgiving. The table set with 3 decades of gaslighting and cranberry sauce. My parents still convinced that respect is something you're born into, not something you earn. Tyler sitting there with his consulting contract, my job repackaged as his opportunity, smirking like he's already won. They pushed me at this same table 27 years ago when I said Tyler cheated at Monopoly. They're pushing me now, thinking I'll fold like I always have. They forgot I learned to document everything because of them. Every slight, every betrayal, every adjustment demanded of me while Tyler got standing ovations for breathing. Wednesday afternoon, one day before Thanksgiving, Jules Ortega sat across from me at a coffee shop 5 miles from North Star, sliding a encrypted drive across the table like we were in a spy movie. Except this was Maple Ridge, and the most dangerous thing in sight was the barista's experimental lavender latte. Immutable logs, she said quietly, eyes scanning the nearly empty shop. The real ones, hash-chained, time-stamped, cryptographically signed, every action on the system from November 1st through the breach. I plugged the drive into my laptop, fingers steady despite the adrenaline spike. There it was, 11:47 p.m., November 14th. Access granted T, Blake Proxy. Command override, safeguard true. Source IP traced to Tyler's apartment complex. The proxy account created just 3 hours earlier using admin credentials that had been temporarily elevated during a routine maintenance window Karina had authorized. There's more, Jules said, pulling up another file. Marcus found something interesting in the email servers, draft folders. The draft was dated 3 weeks before the breach. Subject line, restructuring proposal. Karina to Tyler. Never sent but auto-saved. Once R. Blake's position opens up. Your consulting firm would be ideally positioned for the security audit contract. Ensure the metrics support leadership failure. My moral equation had always been simple. I don't break systems. I build them. I protect them. I document everything that touches them. But I also install safeguards, redundancies, the kind of paranoid infrastructure that assumes betrayal before it happens. I need a lawyer, I said. Jules smiled. Already ahead of you. Naomi Keller. Labor and Administrative Law. 15 years taking down wrongful terminations. She's expecting your call. The meeting with Naomi happened that evening in her downtown office. She was everything a corporate lawyer should be sharpsuit, sharper mind. Zero tolerance for bullshit. Preservation notice goes out tonight, she said after reviewing the evidence. Every email, every log, every keystroke. North Star will have to freeze their systems or face spoliation charges. Your brother's involvement makes this conspiracy to defraud. The proxy account traces make it wire fraud if any of this crossed state lines, which, given the cloud infrastructure, it did. I don't want criminal charges, I said. I want the truth visible. Naomi's smile was surgical. Civil discovery is public record. Every deposition, every document production. Your family wants to play corporate. Let's show them what corporate litigation actually looks like. By 10 p.m. Wednesday night, I had assembled the complete timeline. 14 days of evidence organized with the kind of obsessive detail that got me labeled difficult my whole life. Every access log, every permission change, every firewall modification, Tyler's digital fingerprints all over systems he shouldn't have known existed, Karina's approval signatures on changes that violated 17 different security protocols, but the masterpiece was the audio. Oregon is a single-party consent state for recording. The Tuesday morning meeting where Karina fired me legally captured by the phone in my pocket. Tyler's voice messages bragging to his startup buddy about getting his sister's job, saved and transcribed. The conference call where Karina told HR that I was unstable and needed to be removed before she caused problems, recorded by Marcus, who'd been invited as a witness and forgot to mention his recording app was running. You're building a nuclear weapon, Naomi said, reviewing the compilation. No, I corrected. I'm documenting a crime scene. They built the weapon themselves. Thursday morning. Thanksgiving. Anonymous texts started at 6 a.m. Photos of my car in various parking lots. Stop digging. Family first. You don't know who you're messing with. I forwarded everything to Naomi, then backed up the harassment evidence to 3 different cloud services. Tyler always did confuse intimidation with intelligence. Probably the same impulse that made him think he could override security protocols without triggering my honeypot alerts, the fake vulnerabilities I'd built specifically to catch unauthorized access. By noon, I was ready. The evidence compiled into a single presentation, mirrored to Jules's laptop, ready to stream. Maya from Nextdoor event planner, tech enthusiast, and someone who'd watched the Blake family dynamics for years with barely concealed disgust had volunteered her portable projector and an AirTag to ensure we could locate any device in the house. "Your family's going to implode," she warned, helping me test the AirPlay connection. "No," I said, watching the test video play perfectly. "They imploded years ago. I'm just turning on the lights so everyone can see the debris." The drive to Aunt Patricia's house felt like approaching a crime scene where I was both the victim and the detective. Every mile closer. My phone buzzed with family texts. Mom reminding me to behave. Dad sending his annual grateful for family message. Tyler asking if I could let the work stuff go for one day. Let it go. Like I'd been letting things go my whole life. Like silence was a virtue and documentation was paranoia. I parked where Jules could maintain line of sight from the street. Checked my phone one more time. Naomi had sent confirmation. Preservation notice delivered to North Star General Counsel at 3:58 p.m. They're officially on notice. Time to show my family what I actually do for a living. Time to demonstrate that respect isn't inherited or demanded, it's earned through competence and destroyed through evidence. The kitchen at Aunt Patricia's house had always been command central for Blake family gatherings. 4:20 p.m. Thanksgiving afternoon, and the space hummed with controlled chaos, 3 women orchestrating dinner for 18, while the men watched football and pretended their absence was tradition rather than avoidance. I stood at the sink, washing dishes that didn't need washing, watching Mom direct traffic with a wooden spoon like a conductor's baton. The kitchen windows fogged with steam from multiple pots, the smell of sage and butter thick enough to taste. Everything exactly as it should be, except for the plan unfolding in my jacket pocket and Maya's projector already hidden behind the entertainment center. "Tyler's doing so well," Mom announced to no one in particular, basting the turkey with mechanical precision. "That North Star contract is going to change everything for him." Aunt Patricia hummed agreement while chopping celery. About time he found his footing. Some people just take longer to bloom. 36 years old. Still blooming. Still getting watered and fertilized while I'd been expected to grow in concrete since middle school. My phone buzzed. "Jules. In position. Signal is perfect. Your boy T just pulled up in his Tesla." The Tesla he'd leased last week, according to his Instagram. Already spending money he didn't have from a contract built on my professional corpse. "Rowan, stop hiding in here," Mom said without looking at me. "Go be social, and try to be pleasant for once." Pleasant. Like Tuesday when Karina called me unstable. Like Thursday night when someone accessed our secured systems using my brother's badly hidden credentials. Like right now, when anonymous threats sat in my phone like small bombs. I dried my hands slowly, each movement deliberate. "Just trying to help." "You never knew how to help properly," she muttered, loud enough to ensure I heard. The living room was a sea of relatives in various stages of tryptophan anticipation. Uncle Ray holding court about his golf game. Cousins scrolling through phones. The 70-inch TV displaying the Lions game. The Apple TV box Maya had preloaded with our evidence sitting innocently beneath it, waiting for its moment. Tyler walked in at 4:35, all performative confidence in a blazer that cost more than most people's rent. He made rounds like a politician, working the room, dropping references to big changes and major contracts, and finally stepping up to the plate. "Hey, sis," he said, stopping in front of me with that practiced smile. "No hard feelings about the North Star thing?" "Right. Business is business." I looked at him, really looked, saw Dad's jawline and Mom's eyes and absolutely nothing behind them that resembled conscience or competence. "No feelings at all," I said truthfully. He laughed, clapping my shoulder like we were buddies. "That's the spirit. You'll land on your feet. Maybe I can throw some junior analyst work your way once my team's up and running. His team. Built on my algorithms, my protocols, my reputation. The dining room table was set with Grandmother Blake's china, the stuff that only emerged for holidays and funerals. 18 place settings arranged with military precision, name cards in Mom's careful cursive. They'd seated me between Cousin Beth's twins, age 7 and 9. Tyler, of course, was at Dad's right hand, the honor spot, the heir apparent to nothing but delusion. 5:50 p.m., everyone migrating toward the dining room. I pulled out my phone, opened the encrypted folder Naomi had helped me prepare. Legal documents, evidence files, and one special video compilation titled Truth MP4, all ready to stream. "Put your phone away," Mom hissed, passing with the green bean casserole. "This is family time. Family time, where we perform happiness while dysfunction rots the foundation, where Tyler's failures get rebranded as dreams while my successes get diminished as luck." I slipped the phone back in my pocket, feeling its weight like a loaded weapon. Around me, relatives found their seats, complaints about traffic and comments about weight gain filling the air. Normal Thanksgiving sounds in a normal Midwestern house, except for the bomb I was about to detonate in the middle of the turkey platter. 6 p.m. Dad stood to carve, the electric knife buzzing to life. Mom launched into her annual speech about gratitude and family bonds and supporting each other through challenges. Tyler nodded along like he hadn't spent the last month orchestrating my professional execution. "Speaking of support," Tyler said as Mom finished, "I wanted to thank everyone for believing in my vision, especially you, Mom and Dad. Your investment in my future means everything." Investment. Is that what they called taking out a second mortgage to fund his consultant cosplay? "We're so proud." Mom beamed. Finally, both our children finding their paths. Both our children. Like I hadn't found my path 6 years ago. Like I wasn't walking it until Tyler decided he wanted the ground beneath my feet. The anger wasn't hot anymore. It had crystallized into something harder, cleaner. The kind of fury that builds documentation trails and preservation notices. The kind that waits for the perfect moment to demonstrate exactly what competence looks like when it stops being polite. "A toast," Dad proposed, raising his wine glass. "To family, to success, to Tyler's new chapter with North Star Systems." 17 glasses rose. Mine stayed on the table. "Rowan." Mom's voice carried that familiar warning. I stood slowly, picked up my water glass. "To the truth," I said, "and to everyone getting exactly what they've earned." Tyler smirked. Mom's jaw tightened. Dad looked confused. They had no idea the projector was aimed at the wall behind them. No idea Jules was watching from her car, finger poised over the play button. No idea that in about 30 seconds, their carefully constructed narrative was about to meet my carefully documented reality. The fork was still in my hand, steady as my pulse. I wouldn't need it much longer. Wednesday night, 10:45 p.m., the night before Thanksgiving. My laptop screen glowed in the darkness of my apartment, displaying an email that made my blood run cold. North Star Systems announces internal investigation findings. The corporate communication read, "Following a thorough review of the November 14th security incident, we've identified procedural failures at the team leadership level. Corrective actions have been taken to ensure the integrity of our systems going forward." Procedural failures. Corrective actions. Corporate speak for, "We threw Rowan under the bus and reversed out of the parking lot to make sure." But the real gut punch came from the second paragraph. "We're pleased to announce a new partnership with Blake Advisory Solutions for external security auditing, bringing fresh perspective to our protocols." They'd already announced it, before the investigation was even complete. Before I'd had a chance to present my evidence. Before anyone bothered to check why a 2-bit consulting firm with 0 employees suddenly qualified for a 3-year contract worth $2 million, my phone rang. Naomi Keller. "Did you see it?" I asked without preamble. "I saw it, and I've got news." The preservation notice triggered something. North Star's general counsel called me 30 minutes ago. They're opening an internal audit, a real one this time. Seems the board wasn't informed about Tyler's contract or Karina's unilateral decisions. They're covering their asses. They're scared. Naomi corrected. The logs you provided show potential SOX violations. If they're public, that's SEC territory. Your brother and Karina might have just walked into federal scrutiny. Thursday morning, 6 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I reviewed everything one more time. The folder Jules had compiled was damning, not just the technical evidence, but the pattern. Karina's history of pushing out senior engineers who questioned her. Tyler's paper trail of failed ventures, all featuring the same pattern: infiltrate, destabilize, monetize, collapse. 7:15 a.m. A text from Tyler. Happy Thanksgiving, sis. Can't wait to see you at dinner. Let's leave work at work. Yeah. 7:30 a.m. Another text. Mom says you've been upset. Don't embarrass yourself today. 7:45 I know you've been talking to lawyers. Back off or things get worse. 8 a.m. You always were too smart for your own good. I screenshot everything, forwarded to Naomi, then responded with a single word, noted. By noon, the pressure was building like steam in a sealed pot. Mom called 3 times. Dad texted his usual, let's keep peace in the family message. Even Aunt Patricia chimed in with, your mother's worried about you. Worried. Not about justice or truth or the fact that her son had committed federal wire fraud. Worried that I might disrupt the narrative where Tyler was entrepreneurial instead of criminal. 2 p.m. I met Maya in her driveway to test the setup one final time. She'd modified the projector with a remote trigger, something from her event planning kit that could override any input. You sure about this? She asked, watching the test video play perfectly. Once you hit play, there's no taking it back. There's already no taking it back, I said. They took my job, my reputation, my entire team's stability. All I'm doing is showing receipts. Your family. My family made their choice 30 years ago. Tyler was the investment. I was the appliance. Well, this appliance kept records. 3 p.m. Jules called from her car. I've got something else. Marcus just sent this. He found Tyler's Slack messages with Karina. They go back 6 months. This was planned before she even started targeting you. 6 months. While I was working 60-hour weeks. While I was building systems that protected millions in assets. While Tyler was learning just enough terminology to fake competence in meetings with my company. The Slack messages were gold. Tyler asking Karina for insider perspectives. Karina coaching him on buzzwords. Both of them discussing the Rowan problem like I was an obstacle instead of the person who'd built half the infrastructure they were planning to audit. Add it to the presentation. I told Jules. Everything, every message, every timestamp. 4 p.m. Sitting in my car outside Aunt Patricia's house, watching relatives arrive. The cousins from Columbus with their perfect children. Uncle Ray and Aunt Diane with their matching sweaters. Everyone ready to perform normal family Thanksgiving while my career lay in pieces on North Star's conference room floor. My phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a photo of my car in Aunt Patricia's driveway, taken minutes ago. The message, final warning. I looked around, saw nothing unusual, forwarded the threat to Naomi, then added it to the evidence folder. They wanted to intimidate me. Fine. Let them explain it to federal investigators. 4:45 p.m. Walking through Aunt Patricia's front door, arms full of the pie I'd bought from the grocery store because baking felt like capitulation. The house smelled like every Thanksgiving before rosemary. Butter. That specific combination of too many casseroles competing for oven space. There she is, Mom said, not getting up from the kitchen stool where she was supervising Aunt Patricia's gravy technique. I was worried you might not come. Wouldn't miss it, I said, setting down the pie with the others. Store-bought amid homemade, like everything about me in this family. 5:30 p.m. The living room filling up, the TV loud with pre-game coverage. Tyler holding court near the fireplace, telling his version of success to anyone who'd listen. I caught fragments disrupting the industry, bringing innovation, finally showing what a Blake can do, what a Blake can do. Apparently, it was theft, fraud, and conspiracy. I touched my phone through my jacket pocket, felt the weight of evidence waiting to upload. Around me, my family laughed and gossiped and pretended we were normal, functional, healthy. In 20 minutes, dinner would start. In 30, the truth would play on the wall behind Tyler's head. In 31, this family would never be the same. Good. The dining room at 6:15 p.m. was a Norman Rockwell painting if Norman Rockwell painted dysfunction. 18 people arranged around the extended table, the chandelier casting warm light on carefully styled hair and forced smiles. The turkey sat golden and gleaming, surrounded by dishes that had been photographed for Instagram before anyone thought to say grace. Dad raised his wine glass again, always needing 2 toasts minimum to feel properly patriarchal. Before we eat, I want to say how proud I am of this family, especially Tyler, for showing us all what persistence looks like. Persistence. That's what we were calling fraud now. And Rowan, he continued, like an afterthought, for being here. For being here. The participation trophy of family acknowledgement. Actually, Tyler stood, his chair scraping against hardwood. I'd like to say something too. Here it came. The victory lap. The grave dancing. The part where he got to perform magnanimity while standing on my professional corpse. Change is hard, he began, looking directly at me. Sometimes people get too comfortable in their positions, too set in their ways. That's why companies like North Star need fresh perspectives, need people who aren't afraid to challenge the status quo. Mom nodded along like he was delivering the Gettysburg Address instead of a thinly veiled insult. I know it's been a tough week for some people, he continued, his smile sharp enough to cut glass. But failure is just an opportunity to grow. Right, Rowan. Maybe this is your chance to find something more. Suitable. Like the receptionist job Mom suggested when I got into MIT. Like the teaching position Dad thought would be more stable than tech. Like every diminished version of myself they'd tried to sell me since birth. You're right, I said, setting down my water glass with deliberate calm. Change is hard, especially when it involves conspiracy, wire fraud, and federal investigators. The room went silent except for the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Rowan. Mom's voice carried that familiar warning, the one that used to make me shrink. This is not the time. When is the time, Mom? When Tyler's in federal custody, when the SEC freezes his assets, when North Star's board realizes they've been played. Tyler laughed, but it came out forced. Someone's been drinking too much wine. I don't drink, I reminded him. I document. I stood slowly, pulled out my phone. Around the table, forks paused midway to mouths. Cousin Beth's twins stared wide-eyed. Uncle Ray cleared his throat nervously. 3 weeks ago, I said, voice steady as a metronome. Tyler started asking me about North Star's security protocols. Said he was studying for a certification. I helped him because that's what family does. Right? We help each other. Rowan, sit down, Dad commanded. I ignored him. 2 weeks ago, someone created a proxy account using Tyler's badly hidden credentials. 1 week ago, that account was used to override critical security protocols. Thursday night at 11:47 p.m., to be exact. You're delusional, Tyler said, but sweat had started beading on his forehead. Am I because I have the logs? The real ones, not the edited versions Karina submitted to the board. I have the Slack messages between you two, planning this for 6 months. I have the email drafts discussing my removal 3 weeks before the breach. Mom stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. No one respects you. You're making things up, causing drama like always. I have the audio, I continued, thumb hovering over the play button on my phone. Tyler's voice telling someone to run the override, let her take the fall. Karina promising him the contract once I was gone. All of it recorded, transcribed, and submitted to both North Star's board and the SEC. That's when Dad moved. Glenn Blake, mild-mannered middle manager, crossed the space between us in 2 strides and shoved my shoulder. Hard. The kind of push meant to remind me of my place in the family hierarchy. I stumbled, caught myself on the table edge. My plate jumped, gravy splattering across Grandmother Blake's tablecloth. The fork fell kang against the china, the sound echoing in the stunned silence. Tyler snorted. Actually snorted. Like we were kids again and he'd just gotten away with breaking something of mine. I straightened slowly, smoothed my jacket, and looked at the TV screen visible through the archway to the living room. Play. Jules, beautiful Jules, had been waiting for that word. The 70-inch screen flickered. The football game died. In its place, my evidence began to play. First, the terminal windows, line after line of system logs, timestamps highlighted in yellow. Access granted T, Blake proxy, the commands to override security protocols, the IP address traced to Tyler's apartment, then the audio. Tyler's voice filled the room through the surround sound speakers. Just run the override. Let her take the fall tomorrow. Rowan won't know what hit her. Karina's voice followed. The board wants metrics improvement. Your sister's removal gives us both what we want. The Slack messages appeared next. 6 months of conspiracy laid out in their own words. Tyler asking for insider information. Karina coaching him on how to talk to board members, both of them discussing my termination timeline like I was a project milestone instead of a person. Around the table, chaos erupted. Aunt Patricia dropped her wine glass, red spreading across white linen. Uncle Ray's wife gasped. The twins started crying. Mom had gone pale as parchment, her mouth opening and closing without sound. But I watched Tyler, watched the smirk die on his face, watched him pull out his phone, presumably to call someone, anyone, who could make this stop. Too late. The final frame appeared on screen. Evidence package submitted to SEC whistleblower office. Confirmation. 7829-1147. Estimated award 15 to 30% of sanctions collected. You reported us to the SEC. Tyler's voice cracked like a teenager's. No, I said calmly, straightening the fork I'd knocked over, aligning it perfectly with the knife. I reported federal crimes to the appropriate authorities, with evidence, immutable, time-stamped, legally obtained evidence. Behind Tyler, through the dining room window, I saw a car pull up, not just any car, a black sedan with government plates. Naomi had mentioned the investigation was moving fast, but I hadn't expected Thanksgiving evening fast. By the way, I added, pulling up one final file on my phone. Those threatening texts you sent this morning. The photo of my car. Your Venmo history shows you paid someone named Derek $200 1 hour before I received them. Derek, who according to LinkedIn, is your old fraternity brother who just got out of county lockup for assault. The doorbell rang. The doorbell rang again. More insistent this time. Through the archway, I could see the front door, could see Aunt Patricia frozen in indecision, looking between the door and the dining room like she was trapped in a nightmare. I'll get it, I said, placing my napkin beside my plate with deliberate precision. Don't you dare! Mom finally found her voice, shrill and cracking. You sit down right now and what? I asked, genuinely curious. Adjust my attitude. Be softer. Stop making things difficult. The TV screen behind Tyler still glowed with evidence. The SEC confirmation number burning like a brand. His phone buzzed incessantly. Karina calling, no doubt, having received her own visit from federal investigators. I walked to the door, each step measured and calm. Behind me, Tyler scrambled with his phone, trying to call his lawyer, trying to call anyone. Dad stood frozen by the table, for once having no folksy wisdom to smooth over federal fraud charges. The door opened to reveal 2 people I'd been expecting, but my family hadn't representatives from North Star's legal department. Not investigators, not yet, but Margaret Kim, senior legal counsel, and James Wright, head of internal audit. Both had been invited as family friends by Aunt Patricia, who'd gone to law school with Margaret 20 years ago. "Rowan," Margaret said carefully, her eyes taking in the scene behind me, the frozen tableau of my family around the Thanksgiving table, the TV still displaying evidence. Tyler's face the color of old snow. "Margaret. James." I stepped aside. "Happy Thanksgiving. You're just in time for dessert." They entered slowly, and that's when Tyler recognized them. The phone slipped from his fingers, clattering on hardwood. "We need to discuss the preservation notice," James said, his voice cutting through the dining room's stunned silence. "And the board's emergency meeting scheduled for 8 tomorrow." 8 a.m. Karina's name flashed on Tyler's phone screen as it rang on the floor. "But it's Thanksgiving. Federal investigations don't observe holidays," Margaret said coolly. She turned to me. "Ms. Blake, we'll need your full cooperation." "You have it," I said. You've had it since Tuesday when I was wrongfully terminated. My attorney has already submitted comprehensive documentation." Mom finally moved, stumbling toward us, her face a mask of desperate denial. "This is a misunderstanding. Tyler was trying to help. He would never." "Mrs. Blake," Margaret interrupted. "Your son accessed secured systems using fraudulent credentials. That's a federal crime. Your daughter, meanwhile, has provided evidence that may have saved North Star from catastrophic liability." The word daughter hung in the air like an accusation. Mom had spent 34 years telling everyone I was difficult, ungrateful, cold. Now, her difficult daughter was the only one in the room not facing potential federal charges. "The contract," Tyler whispered, finding his voice. "My company is under investigation." James finished. "All contracts are suspended pending review." Behind us, the TV flickered again. Jules had added something new, a compilation of my team's messages after walking out with me. 16 professionals stating they'd rather risk their careers than work for corrupt leadership. 16 people who actually understood what respect looked like. I picked up my water glass from the table, raised it slightly. "You wanted to toast Tyler's new chapter with North Star. Here's to it. May it be everything he deserves." The glass touched my lips. Cool, clean water instead of wine. I'd need to drive soon. After all, this dinner was over. "Dinner continues," I said calmly, setting down the glass. "Please, everyone, eat." But no one moved. Forks stayed suspended, food cooling on plates. The perfect Thanksgiving tableau destroyed by something my family never thought I'd have proof. Tyler stood abruptly, his chair falling backward. "You destroyed everything." "No," I said, meeting his eyes steadily. "I documented everything. You destroyed yourself." He lunged forward, not quite at me, not quite away, just a graceless stumble of rage and panic. His hand swept across the table, sending dishes sliding. Mom shrieked. Dad finally moved, grabbing Tyler's arm, but it was too late. The gravy boat tipped, cranberry sauce splattered, and Grandmother Blake's china, the precious, irreplaceable china, cracked as plates collided. I didn't flinch. I'd been preparing for explosions my whole life. "The board meeting," Margaret said into the sudden silence, "is mandatory for all involved parties. Mr. Blake, that includes you." She meant Tyler, but the way she said it, looking at my entire family, made it clear they were all involved now. The parents who'd enabled him, the relatives who'd looked away, the system that had protected him until I'd dragged it into the light. My phone buzzed. "Naomi, SEC just confirmed receipt of evidence. Whistleblower claim approved. We need to talk about your protection status." Protection. Because people who exposed million-dollar fraud sometimes needed it. But looking at my family's faces, Mom's hysteria crumbling into shock, Dad's authority evaporating like steam, Tyler's golden boy facade shattered beyond repair, I realized I'd already been in danger my whole life. The only difference now was that everyone could see it. "I have to go," I said, picking up my jacket from the coat rack. You can't leave, Mom whispered. Your family. No, I said, hand on the doorknob. I'm evidence. I'm documentation. I'm the difficult daughter who kept receipts. But family. I looked back at the destroyed table, the shattered plates, the TV still glowing with proof of conspiracy. Family would have respected me without needing federal investigators to enforce it. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Through the window, I could see them all frozen in place. The dining room a crime scene of their own making. In the driveway, Jules waited in her car, engine running. How did it go? I slid into the passenger seat, pulled out my phone, and looked at the final piece of evidence I hadn't shared an email from North Star's board. Sent an hour ago. Dear Ms. Blake, in light of recent revelations, we would like to discuss your immediate reinstatement with a promotion to Director of Security Infrastructure. I'm not going back, I told Jules. The whistleblower settlement will be enough to start my own firm. She smiled, pulling out of the driveway as my family's house grew smaller in the rearview mirror. What will you call it? I thought about 34 years of being told I was too difficult, too rigid, too obsessed with documentation. Thought about Tyler's snort when Dad pushed me. Thought about that fork falling against China King like a bell marking the end of something. Blake Security Solutions, I said. The real one. Behind us, the house disappeared around a corner. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Mom, 12 from Dad, 43 from Tyler. I blocked them all. The fork had fallen. The evidence had played. The truth had won. Dinner was over. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story of justice served cold at a Thanksgiving dinner resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up to family who didn't respect you? What would you have done in Rowan's position? Let me know in the comments.